All right, it's Tuesday.
Yes, and we're going to go through irrigation options today. So we had someone asking us about irrigation, so we just thought we'd go through each greenhouse and what we've got set up there. So the very first one here is overhead irrigation. So you can get these little, these are called kind of like a microjet sprinkler. You can get all sorts of different ones that are out in the market. So they're really good for, you can actually have these set up for automated, so you don't really have to do anything manually. You can set them up onto a timer and they do a really good job. So they're quite convenient, especially if you don't have a lot of time to go, if you've got a huge collection or just a big garden to water. They do a really good job with that. So the only issue is that they do use a fair bit of water, but there's a lot of water wastage as well. So you'll see that it'll go onto the paths, it'll hit the side of the greenhouse, and yeah, so a lot of water goes to wastage there. And they're not very expensive to set up, but yeah, use a lot of water. So we're on tank water here in our nursery, so we're very conscious of the amount of water that we use. So yeah, so that's why we haven't decided to go with overhead irrigation throughout the whole nursery. So this one was a trial, and because this was quite a big slope, this greenhouse, it was really hard to get the whole thing level to do our bottom irrigation, so we had to do it overhead. So just have to monitor how much water we're using, but we do a little bit of hand watering as well. So mainly through spring, summer we'll use these guys. This time of the year through winter here in Australia, I don't use these guys much at all. I just do a bit of hand watering. So there's some sections here like Haworthia, Aeoniums, cotyledons, and you've got some crassulas as well that are growing. So I'll just hand water them because it's only small sections. So as opposed to this, you can do the whole greenhouse. Yeah. So the next one we'll show is some bottom watering in our next greenhouse.
Righto, so you live and learn. What's your next option?
Yeah, so the next one in this greenhouse, we've done only a small section. We've set up a bottom watering. So this was a trial. I just used excess, or leftover spare pallets, and I've just cut all the bits off them and created a lip. If I take this tray out here, you will see. So that's just the timber there, just like that. And then if I just pop this over here, just down there. Then I've just used some black plastic, so just a landscaper's grade one, and then I've covered that underneath and made sure that there's no holes. If there's any holes, you can use a bit of silicone to try and seal that. And then what I've done is I've just cut some weed mat to the right size of the area. That way the plants, when they're sitting on the plastic, they're not going to cut it when you're moving around, because sometimes you'll get bits of zeolite or rock or something like that sitting on the bottom, and that can easily put a little hole in there. So that's all I've done then, and yeah, the weed mat's perfect just so the plants can sit on, and hopefully, well, we haven't had any holes through the plastics yet, so that's good, must be working. So yeah, so all we do then is at the moment I'm just doing this manually, but you can set it up with some irrigation, which will, you just put on a little mechanical timer or a timer, kick that over, and then it'll actually release water into here and fill it up. So it'll become like a little bit of a bath, I suppose. And the plants will take it in from the bottom through their roots, and it'll wet the soil, and yeah, it's really good. You get pretty good root growth out of it as well. So, because all the roots are really focusing on getting down to the bottom of the tray or the bottom of the cell tray. So always good having good root development on your succulents. So you can also set up like a capillary matting, and what some people will use is like a geofabric, which is you can just find it at a hardware store, and that can sit in between the weed mat and the plastic. So when water runs off, it kind of acts like a sponge. So it'll absorb the water, and it'll just hold that water for longer, and then it'll just keep your plants watered for a lot longer time, and it's really good through summer as well. It doesn't dry out as quick. But we just use the weed mat straight onto the plastic on this little section, and it seems to be pretty good. The only problem is I didn't get it dead level, so it is on a little bit of a slope, so you'll notice that when I am filling it up manually, down this, the bottom, say for example here, will sit a lot higher the water level as opposed to here. So that's the only downfall. And then over here to drain the water, I've just drilled through the actual pallet and through the plastic, and then I've siliconed it to seal it. And then I've just used a little bit of 19mm pipe hose like that.
Oh, golly.
Like that there. And then I can drain it. So I just got like a little valve outside the greenhouse. I just open that and then it drains all the water.
Oh, this thing over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a trial, so yeah. And it seems to be pretty good. Even if, you know, because these guys, you've got some pots are water saving. So what that happens is they've got a little bit of a lip on the bottom, and you won't actually, inside the pot it'll hold a little bit of water before it actually gets to the root system. So it doesn't have a drainage hole right down the bottom. So say like this tray right here, where the drainage is right down the bottom there. So you will need, if you do have those water saving pots, then you will need to create a lip so then the pots can sit in water. So whereas these guys, we can just wet the top here, and this is perfect for a capillary irrigation system where you've got that little bit of fabric in between your weed mat and your plastic. And once, the soil from the bottom of these drainage holes will sit onto that weed matting, and water slowly running, it'll actually absorb the moisture, and then that'll take in the water. And
is it better for fungal issues not to have water on your leaves?
So bottom watering, I'm starting to really like, only because you're using a lot less water, because it's not going to wastage, it's not spraying everywhere like the overhead, but also you're not getting as much water or any water in between the actual crowns or the rosettes of the plants, of your succulents, where water can sit there for long periods of time. And if you're getting direct sunlight on them, sometimes it can cause them to burn, or you can have fungal issues or just rotting issues as well. So this kind of helps prevent that, but it is also good sometimes just to, every now and then, just to wet the plants, so they do get a bit of moisture in there. But they don't like to have too much moisture sitting in there for long term, especially through winter when it takes a lot longer to dry and for that water to disappear. So yeah, it definitely, you should notice less fungal issues if you do bottom watering as opposed to the overhead. And that's that little section there. And with the new greenhouse, I've just done, haven't completely finished it with irrigation, but I've leveled off the pallets, and I can show you what I've done there. So
yeah, let's go have a peek.
Yep.
Righto, so here's our work in progress.
Yes, so what I didn't mention in the second greenhouse that we just did with the bottom watering is, so before I laid the plastic, I used a material called Corflu, which is kind of like a plastic material, and I've just done that to sit on top of the pallets because I've got gaps in between. It just helps to, especially if you've got individual pots sitting on there, it doesn't, you know, they'll sit nice and evenly on there as opposed to still kind of caving in, especially if they're in a big pot. But also water as well, so if you've just lay plastic on there, water's going to get stuck in here and eventually you may have a blowout. So so I've just used Corflu. It was cheap, as opposed to using like a steel or a ply or something like that. But you can use ply if you want to. So yeah, so what I would do then is I would lay, so on this I've leveled it off. It's actually quite hard with pallets just because you've got all sorts of different sizes, and you know, some of them have been through, you know, had a bit of a hard life,
seen better days
and stuff like that. So I've leveled it off as best as I can. I know it's much better than that other bottom watering that I've
couldn't
done.
be much harder to get it better than other ones.
Yeah, so
wonky.
Then what I would do is, just because I needed, so I've leveled it off, but I just needed to move started moving parent plants over because we needed, I need to level off this from the second house, so then I can start moving stock because spring's not far away, so I need to hurry up. So yeah, so I can always come back to this later and do the irrigation. So all I would do then is I'll just lay the Corflu on top, so that would sit on top here. Then we would roll out a layer of plastic, so the builder's landscape plastic all the way along. Then I would use weed matting, so put that on top just to stop any scratching or any from rocks or anything like that from damaging the plastic. And then I'm going to use, so instead of using bits and pieces of pallet, I'm going to try something new. This is a 19mm pipe, but I'm going to use 25mm. And then what that's going to happen is I'm going to sit that on the edge. Obviously, when it's got water in it, it's a bit warmer. There's a lot more flex, so it's a bit stiff at the moment. And then what I would do is just put that all the way around, and I would lock that in. So I would roll the plastic and then the weed matting over this, and then we'll just, you know, we might use like a half saddle or something like that to lock it in place. Yep. And then what I would do then is I'm just going to pop some, I can even just put little holes in there so water can come out, or I can just put in 4mm piping, put that in, and then the water can be dispersed all the way around evenly instead of me having to hand water it.
Is that going to be the lip? What do you mean?
Yeah, so this will be the lip. So
what? Is that going to be high enough?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be very high.
Oh,
so
okay.
25, yeah, 2.5 centimeters high, and that should be enough to for the plants to take in enough water. So I may just have to turn it on every now and then in case they're taking in a lot of water and it hasn't. Some might still be a bit dry. So yeah, so that's going to be the new trial, is using that technique there. So yeah, so hopefully that works, and then I'll hook that up to like a timer which will release water and shut off. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're up to with the irrigation. Like I said, we're on tank water here, so it's very important to be really smart with our water usage, and I think bottom watering is the way to go here. So I'm just trialing a couple different bottom watering techniques to find which one is quicker for me to set up, but also affordable or cheap, and does a good job. So yeah, so this is the new one, and I'm keen to show you an update of how it goes once it's all set up and working properly. So yeah, so this is our first zone here of this.
Fingers
that's
crossed.
it, fingers crossed. Of our first, so this is our first zone of our parent plants here. So we've got to do the rest of the.
So why is there such a big? Are they like baby pallets down there, and these ones are?
That was because I didn't get the bobcat to level it properly. So
Oh God,
yeah.
on camera. Okay.
So note to self: make sure that the pad is leveled properly, and then you wouldn't have such a big gap from down there to here. So anyway, it should still do the job. At least it's a little bit higher on this end. You know, it's better for workspace. I suppose that's the benefit from it. So yeah, hopefully you found that helpful. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Happy to answer any questions there. Make sure you like and subscribing to our channel if you're loving our tips. Please keep throwing tips as well at us that you'd like us to do, or different topics. We're happy to add them to our list and do them in the near future. But yeah, have a great week. Hopefully, yeah, you found that helpful, and we'll catch you in the next Tip Tuesday.